6, Mischief in the Moonlight.
Redo the chapter title, otherwise people will be like, why is he
it
speaking in a robot
I
voice?
said it the normal way before, but 6, Mischief in the Moonlight. But why did Mrs. Patterson become so angry? You say to Rory, who sits at the end of his bed with one shoe off, rubbing his foot. It has grown late, perhaps 10:30, and the house is quiet now. Quieter, at any rate, than Aunt Primrose was when he returned to Rory's room. She had just finished giving Rory a piece of her mind, and had just concluded with a final and stormed out of the room past you, leaving Rory stunned.
Who can say what lurks in the deepest recesses of an ant's mind, Cotswold?
Rory says, voice slightly quavering. But what was the argument about? Rory takes off his other shoe, and then lies flat back on the bed.
Seems that Mopsy informed Aunt Primrose about the nature of the false figs in hopes of showing her that figs could be trusted in civilized society, and Auntie hit the roof. She turned her vengeance on me.
Oh, Mopsy. Why on you, sir?
Because, like an ass, I shouldered much of the responsibility. I kept your name out of it, but she is most unhappy. She made it very clear to me that she had been intending to invite Professor Hickory to speak at her Ladies of Quality Intellectual Society salon as a figure who would really pack in the crowds. Then she said, hollered would be more accurate, that she was going to cut off my monthly allowance entirely as a punishment for my part in the whole Professor Hickory episode.
Oh no, sir.
We need that money to pay back our gift shop escapade. Then I said, what about you helping me with my gambling debt? Perhaps you could sell some art. You, of course, remember Surefire in the third race, Cotswold.
I do indeed.
And she replied that, far from helping with my gambling debt, that I was lucky she didn't bodily pitch me out the window. It was about then that you entered stage left, just in time to see her exit stage right.
What was it that she said about frankincense as she left?
Oh, that. It was probably just uttered in the heat of the moment. She said to me that you and frankincense deserve each other. I thought it was pretty bitter stuff. I think that frankincense said something to her about the possibility of serving a wholly vegetarian meal tomorrow, and Aunt Primrose was in no good mood to hear about it. Unfortunately, frankincense persisted long after anyone who knew Auntie well would have known to stop. I fear that frankincense, too, is not in Aunt Primrose's good graces anymore.
Rory heaves a long, soul-shattering sigh.
What do you think of this whole wretched situation, Cotswold?
What is your response? Kiss Rory isn't an option.
Dang it!
I really like number 4. The Professor Hickory costume was pretty bad.
Hey, we're the one who picked it out.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why it's funny.
I am laughing at how ridiculous the Professor Hickory costume was.
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry, sir, you say, holding a hand to your mouth. The image of figs in that beard just came back to me. You begin to convulse in silent laughter, and Rory too begins to quiver even amidst his frustration. It is clear that what Rory needed most of all was a good laugh to wash away the tension. It is good to see. It is at this moment that Mopsy strolls in without knocking.
I don't see how you can laugh at a time like this,
Mopsy says. Rory wipes his eyes and stretches out on the bed.
The bad.
Rory wipes his eyes and stretches out on the bad bed. Resting his head on both hands.
Sorry, Mopsy. It just came over us. Did Auntie cheer you out just now?
Pretty thoroughly.
Mopsy says.
You?
Indeed. And my allowance is cut off until further notice.
That's a shame.
She plops into a chair.
Luckily, I have a plan to fix that. And Cotswold is instrumental to it.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to check if that bad moment led to... Oh no, she still likes us. Okay. I guess we got out of it. So, how do we react to her scheme? We can narrow our eyes 1/60th of an inch.
I'm leaning towards that, actually.
Should I go
It's
with...
like, after everything, I don't feel all in anymore.
Yeah.
I narrow my eyes 1/60th of an inch. Let's just hope Mopsy doesn't have eagle eyes.
I can see your mixture of fascination and wonder from here.
Says Mopsy rapturously.
Yes, that's indeed what we were
your-
going for.
And your excitement is well founded.
Let's hear it.
Rory says.
I like the sound of a plan that will get me my allowance back.
Mopsy smiles a small, superior smile, and she begins to explain her plan.
It seems that Aunt Primrose has been hoping to invite Professor Hickory to address her high-minded intellectual society. Well, his not actually being Professor Hickory put a damper on that. She has decided to break the news to the other members tonight over a game of high-stakes baccarat, hosted by Mrs. Mudwasp, who lives just nearby. She is most unhappy at having to do it, and to cheer herself up, she is determined that, at the very least, she intends to win a great sum of money at baccarat. Winning money will always make her happy.
Yes, Mopsy.
Says Rory, frowning.
But what you fail to perceive is that if she wins, that hardly seems to solve our problem. She'll still be furious at us. And, of course, she might lose.
I'm coming to that. Cotswold, are you familiar with the well-known sneak thief Light-Fingered Lou? I would say I may have heard the name in casual conversation, because I want to hear what she has to say to me.
Which, I mean, is accurate, because...
Right. Seems most true to what we know, at least.
I know more than you know.
Okay, fine. That we was me and Caliban.
Yep. I just like gloating. I wouldn't say familiar. I may have heard the name in casual conversation.
That name does come up a good deal.
Mopsy says.
That's because Light-Fingered Lou puts fear into the hearts of homeowners both hither and yon.
Mopsy points out the window.
That is the estate of Mr. and Mrs. Ivanhoe Wasp, where Auntie will be gambling tonight into the wee hours. My plan is simple. You, Cotswold, will rob the game of baccarat, pretending to be Light-Fingered Lou by wearing a black mask. They will be terrified. You will scoop all the money in a canvas bag and then abscond with it.
Did you say rob the game of baccarat? Me?
Then
Mopsy says, ignoring you.
you will sneak back into Ritornello, give the bag of money to Rory, who will claim to have nearly captured Light-Fingered Lou, and retrieve the loot. You, Cotswold, will remove the mask at some point, and nobody will be the wiser. Aunt Primrose will be so proud of you, Rory, that she will forgive everything.
It's very clever.
Says Rory.
And it's difficult to imagine how anything could go wrong with it.
It's foolproof.
Mopsy says.
Foolproof. So what do you say, Cotswold? Are you willing to engage in this very minor affair to help Rory? If you don't do it, Rory is already determined to disguise himself and commit the fake robbery himself. So really, you owe it to Rory to help out.
Let me think, you say, weighing the options.
Oh no! It's like we're terrible at all of the sneaking stuff, but having Rory do it would also be terrible.
I think if you look at the flashing Morse code light, you still get to decide after you look at it.
Okay, I was kind of leaning towards that anyway. It's kind of like Oh, someone's randomly signaling in Morse code. What's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Which I forgot to read, but there's a Morse code message. Out through the window. Flashing light. You look out the window as Mopsy chatters away. Yes, Aunt Primrose's conservatory in the East Wing Tower seems to have a light flashing on and off. It repeats several times, and so you are able to piece together the simple message.
Message.
It's a message. It's like a migraine.
It is a message. Can I please do this silly voice that would say message?
Okay, but I think you'll be able to figure out who's actually sending it.
It's okay. Her
Her Morse code voices has a very cheesy Italian accent.
right.
Come quickly, clockwork waffle mantis shrimp, the urgent inner circle mission. Message.
Should I mess up at speaking more often? It seems like the best stuff happens when I fail at English.
Yes.
No, it seems to be about the right amount. Because, if it was messing up every sentence, that might be a bit much and slow things down. But, sprinkled in here and there, it's good.
Cotswold, you are not saying anything.
Mopsy pouts.
You're going to help us, surely.
Now we have 3 options, and this will branch the chapter pretty immensely, so, if you want to talk it over.
I want to help Mopsy!
Or if you just are happy with... I shut the shade, blocking out the flashing light, deciding to ignore the coded message and focus on helping Rory and Mopsy. Of course I will help Mopsy.
I mean, those are our faves. We gotta be good to our friendos.
Yeah. It's like, at least this run, I don't care too much about Regina. Sorry, Regina. But
Yeah, don't.
If helping them is actually for their own good.
Right. I don't know, what we would even do if we just left them to their own devices, or how it would turn out.
Yeah,
I shudder to think.
Something would happen if you go out, because there's a whole nother branch, but I won't tell you
I
what it is.
want to protect Rory.
Yeah.
Protect Rory.
I know that you've chosen this. We'll go with it. Yeah. Rory smiles broadly.
Hurrah, Cotswold,
He says.
I just knew you'd rally around. It'll be a simple affair, and then we can turn and sleep the sleep of the just. I'll end up smelling like roses.
Just remember, Rory,
Mopsy says.
when you are celebrated by all and sundry for your heroism, that this was my plan and my plan alone. You have to tell me how smart I am.
Never fear, cousin mine. I'll give credit where credit is due.
Now listen carefully, Cotswold.
Mopsy says.
You have a rather crucial role to play here.
Mopsy takes a piece of paper from the desk in Rory's room and begins sketching a map of the grounds of Ritornello.
It's quite simple, Cotswold. Rory will go with Aunt Primrose, now to the card game.
I will.
Rory says.
I'm not dressed for it, and she's far too angry at me to want to see my face until morning.
Go and get dressed now.
Mopsy commands.
Just tag along with her and say that you will not let her be until she forgives you. She'll probably scream at you a good deal more, but it's imperative that you be there when the robbery happens. This way you can leap to her rescue.
Rory ducks into the walk-in closet and starts tossing clothes out of it, rejecting each option in turn. You catch a thrown shirt, and then begin to help him as Mopsy talks. Mopsy turns to you.
Then Cotswold, at 11 o'clock, you arrive wearing this black mask.
She holds out a small black mask designed to cover the top half of the face.
Nobody will know who you are.
You look at the mask. The eye holes are slightly uneven,
I made it myself.
she says with a hint of pride. You don't say, you say. Rory emerges from the walk-in closet in something more presentable than pajamas.
Then you sneak into the card game at the neighbor's, rob it, and run back to Ritornello. Rory will run after you. You two pretend to have a fight, and then Rory is a big hero because he chased off light-fingered Lou and retrieved the money. Cotswold, you simply go back to bed at that point.
Mopsy explains with pride. You look down at the map that Mopsy has been sketching, which, upon inspection, turns out to be a rough drawing of herself wearing an evening gown with a flared hem and a capelet.
I suppose that's that.
Mopsy says.
Good luck. Remember, when you rob the card game, be sure to steal Aunt Primrose's wedding ring. She'll love Rory for retrieving it. And here's a kosh in case you need to bonk anyone on the head, and a gun for waving around and being threatening. Good luck.
The kosh is a heavy piece of black wood, while the gun appears to be a novelty item suitable for party gags. You stow them both about your person as Rory and Mopsy leave the room. You have 30 minutes before it's time for some larceny at the neighbors. How do you spend that time?
I only see this going poorly.
Practice skulking, practice the gun, practice hitting things. Just read poetry, or we can practice the mask.
I mean, the poetry seems pretty chill. What do you think, Emily?
One of these is not like the others.
It's like, it fits our personality most, but I don't know how it will actually help us. I feel like we're not good at any of these things except poetry.
And this might be something that raises the stats. I don't actually remember.
Could we look at our stats for just like a short minute?
Yeah.
Oh, because yeah, our skullduggery is 14%.
Which might be where it started. We're not really good at much other than persuasion and culture. And
Yeah.
soothing. We're very soothing.
Wearing the mask might be a bit like persuasion, because, you know, it's trying to be more convincing. I guess I might just be leaning towards the last option.
The mask.
Yeah.
I practice wearing the mask to help me portray a burglar more convincingly. Okay.
Unless Callie had a different idea.
I clicked
that
it.
You've already clicked. So,
Yeah,
we're going with it.
I just didn't want to dally.
Yeah, that's fine. We were dallying enough.
At first you keep bumping into things like lamps or corners of the room. It takes a little time to get used to the discomfort of the mask and the strange position of the eye holes, but you think you are getting the hang of it. Soon, you feel as though you are getting into character, and you feel more comfortable in the role. Your money, if you please, you say. That's the way that I would say it. You practice saying larcenous things while walking across the room and not bumping into things, and you are largely successful. So let's see, I wonder if our persuasion did get higher. It did. It
Oh,
was
yes.
a boost.
Hopefully it will actually come in handy.
Then you try crawling and jumping. This mask is really uncomfortable, you realize, and you feel your eyes beginning to ache from the strain of looking through the holes for a sustained time. You suppose you ought to be off. Rory and Aunt Primrose should be at the Mud Wasps now, deeply engaged in the Baccarat game. You open the door and tiptoe out. You quietly skulk across the hall, where snores and deep breathing, audible through the bedroom doors, clearly indicate that most of the guests are sound asleep. Creeping down the main staircase to the first floor, ever so slowly, you're faced with a significant challenge: the squeaky steps. You recall that there are 3 steps that have a pronounced squeak in them. You and Rory have likened them to the mating call of a seal singing in falsetto, and you stand by that analogy. While one gets used to the squeaks by day, by night one runs the risk of stirring the guests. Notably, you do not wish to awaken Inspector Ambrose, who might emerge and start asking you awkward questions, like, how do you choose to die?
That is a very awkward question, yes.
How do you choose to die? Yeah, that's a very awkward way to bother someone.
How should you deal with the squeaky steps?
I like sliding down the banister.
I suppose I will have to slide down the banister.
Yes.
You do not make this decision lightly. There is simply no other alternative. Mounting the banister is the easy part. The difficult part is keeping one's balance and dismounting just before you come into contact with the finial at the end of the banister. which unfortunately is a carved image of Perseus holding a very pointy spear. The business end of the spear, for some reason, points right along your trajectory as you descend the banister. You slide down, maintaining control and balance, and keeping a wary eye on that spear point. You feel it would be most undignified if, in the morning, you were found impaled on Perseus's spear. People would talk. There's a crucial question here, perhaps the most crucial decision that you have made or will make on a day filled with decisions. As you descend the banister, picking up speed, your hair whipping back, thinking back to your carefree days as a child, are you able to refrain from shouting, "Whoopee!"
Oh.
I say it quietly.
I like that.
Whoopee. Whoopee, you murmur. It just isn't the same, but you suppose it is better than nothing. You ponder as you slide how making compromises can be unsatisfying, that when one attempts to split the difference, as it were, one is left hungry for conviction. But, you realize with a sigh, maybe that's what maturity is, realizing that the appetites of the young must be left to childhood, and that one must learn to be satisfied with a bit of pleasure, like a nibble of a fine chocolate, rather than greedily devouring a chocolate bar.
But I feel like, it would be fine to shout whoopee, just not in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to be
Yeah.
quiet right now.
Mopsy, already downstairs, observes you with a curious expression. It is in the middle of these deep thoughts that you make contact with Perseus's spear in your, let us say, your hip, and you tumble off the banister to the floor, clutching at your wound. Mopsy comes over to you.
Are you all right? Do you need ice?
She looks around as if expecting to see a pile of ice sitting on Aunt Primrose's silk antimacassar-covered chairs in the front hall. You wave her off and stand up. You can hear someone muttering upstairs and someone else coughing. You stagger away from the foot of the stairs. You'll be fine. Just a bit tender for a little while, that's all. All right, you say, ensuring that you have your mask, kosh, and gun. I'm ready. The front door has a large sign on it written by Carlington, the butler. It states that, due to rumors of sneak thievery in the area, nobody is permitted to walk the grounds after 10 o'clock in the evening without the express permission of Mrs. Patterson.
Take the front door key.
Mopsy says, handing it to you.
I secured this earlier. The door locks when it closes, and this way you could just let yourself silently back in. Good luck. Make Rory a hero.
You accept the key, open the front door, and slip outside. The night is lit by a large full moon, but luckily it is cloudy, and there are a good deal of shadows to flip between as you make your way to the side of the house, to the gate between Ritornello and the Mudwasp's estate.
Are we going to have to deal with dogs, though? Because I remember that was what we,
That was what we chose.
told Primrose, yeah.
I didn't remember what we chose. Sneaking around is easy, you reflect. Everyone is asleep and the world is quiet. You even begin to fantasize that you will encounter no problems at all when you hear something alarming. You turn to see the awful sight of 3 of Aunt Primrose's hunting hounds, clearly having caught your scent, charging at your position. Consequences! This, then, is the situation. You have... I'm so sadistic. I'm just grinning right now.
Mean.
It's just like, I knew that this was what would happen when you chose it at the beginning, too. This, then, is the situation. You have a mere moment to react. At worst, the hounds may tear you to shreds. But even if they are not in a ferocious mood, if they begin to bay and bark, they will certainly wake up the whole house, and you will be in a very sticky position. Luckily, you are familiar with a number of common solutions to being pursued by hounds. The easiest solution is to remove an article of your clothing and throw it at them. They will be distracted by the scent and cease pursuit. That, of course, leaves you without some of your clothes, which could prove awkward. You could raise your arms and roar at them, pretending to be a large predator. That is more difficult to accomplish, but has the advantage of not leaving any of your clothing lying around. Of course, it requires you roaring a bit to accomplish. Most difficult of all, but most subtle, is you approaching the dogs while crooning at them softly to calm them. This, if done well, will be quite silent. Done poorly, well, it could have bloody results. What brilliant plan do you choose?
Yeah. We're pretty soothing. That might
Yeah,
be...
let's soothe the babies.
Yeah. I don't want to leave
Soothing.
any clothing around because then it could be traced back to us.
Right. Let's soothe. That was my first instinct.
I approach the dogs, singing and cooing to them. You ain't
Kumbaya,
nothing but a hound dog. Oh, we had different
kumbaya.
ideas. You ain't
Well,
nothing but a
whatever.
hound dog. Yours is probably more soothing than mine. You determine that the best way is the quietest way, come what may. Even as they charge you, you step or snap. I wonder if he can learn how to snap, or if he has a trademark on that. You step softly towards them, singing gently. The most important question, though, is what song you choose to sing.
I would be tempted by Oh by Jingo just because I enjoyed that in Jeeves and Wooster, but I think the most fitting one would probably be Tooraloo Lura.
I'm not sure if I know that.
I don't know any of these. I do not know any of these songs.
Okay, I don't think I do know that, but was it Tooraloo? Was that how it went?
Close enough.
You begin in calming tones. I can make it up. Tooraloo, Tooraloo. It's an Irish lullaby. You can't quite remember the rest of the words, so you just go back to Tooraloo again and repeat that for some time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
The dogs come to a halt, skidding slightly on the grass as they hear your dulcet tones. You move closer, holding your hands out to remind them who you are, that you are not an intruder after all. You conclude the song as you pet them gently and lovingly. Shh, you say, good girls. They look at you sideways, tails thumping on the ground and then curling up at your feet as if to fall asleep there. You scritch them and hum to them. Sleep tight. The three dogs abruptly look up at you, waiting for you to bid them good night by name.
Go with the one that it's on.
Yeah, I think
as
that's
close as we can get.
the obvious right answer. As I think it's a stat check. I think we're cultured enough that we got that.
Yeah.
I seem to remember their names were from King Lear. The novice would guess that they were named after King Lear's three daughters, but you remember that they were named after Lear's dogs. Sleep tight, Trey, Blanche, and Sweetheart, you say lovingly. They sigh with utter contentment and immediately doze off, right there in the middle of the lawn. You give each of them a fond kiss, then continue your heist in progress.
Aww.
Sweet puppies.
Yeah.
Okay, so it actually was... See, I wasn't being sadistic. I knew you were going to get a really sweet scene. That's why I was so gleeful.
Uh-huh. You thought we would completely fail at that, didn't you?
It's an Irish lullaby.